Another Monday, another edition of Ask Mike, joined as always by Mike Irwin. Breaking it down, Mike, as the Razorbacks drop a 7th consecutive game. It is unreal. All these games, they're very close. They have a chance to win in the fourth quarter, and every single time it seems like they just let it slip away.
Yeah, there's usually a different reason. Like no one, at least I certainly wouldn't have felt like if calls in the game of penalties would be a deciding factor, and it was, but I think, as I told you before on our game day show, until they don't do this, I'm going to assume they're going to lose every game they play.
And unfortunately, I feel like the fan base is feeling that way too. And after the game, Bobby Petrino, last week against Auburn, he felt dejected, a little down 3 straight, but, another one and another tough way to stomach it. Yeah. He said he's sad. He's sad for the players, and he himself seems disappointed. So, truly a bummer here all around for the Arkansas Razorbacks. Diving into it here, first question this week coming from Captain Hogg, who asked, what are your thoughts on the refs of this game? Seemed a little lopsided. Yes, the Hogs made some mistakes, but that many? I think even Stevie Wonder could have seen it was the Hogs. It was all Hogs and not much on State.
Look, it's to me, it's been interesting to see the reaction of different fans to all this, because you definitely have some fans that are mad about the calls and maybe felt like that decided the game. And you've had some other fans that are saying, so what? You still lost. We don't care. So I'm going to read some of these just to give you an idea. And these are off of our Pig Trail Nation Facebook page, so it was sent to us. And the first one, this guy says, the best players for Mississippi State from last night were referee Jeff Heiser, umpire Michael Moten, head linesman Chad Green, line judge Adam Loudon. Okay, but on the other hand, there was this: sloppy playing, no discipline, no heart, no commitment. Need I go on? Back to the refs. Is there a referee transfer portal? Those refs were picked from Cartoon World. It's a shame. But then this guy, and this is interesting. There's a more important question than the refs. The U of A did this when they hired Sam. They also contributed by keeping a lazy AD who refuses to come into the present with NIL. Mostly it was perpetrated by brain-dead fans who continuously prop up Sam and demanded that he stay and keep losing. To those fans, I say, this season is on you. So that's pretty brutal, but that's what's out there. I don't have any argument with either way. I can see why you'd be upset that, they worked hard and they finally lost the game on this. And I agree with you. It wasn't all the calls.
Not all
bad.
18 calls were bad calls. No way.
But it wasn't so much that some of those calls were the wrong call. It was that they missed some calls on Mississippi State. But Arkansas probably was a little more undisciplined in this game. But on the other hand, I can understand why you'd be so frustrated as a fan. You just don't care anymore. You're losing. You're losing.
This is a bigger picture to me in college football. Gambling, we've talked about. It's everywhere. Eventually, these college teams, they're going to be taking the DraftKings money. They're going to be taking the FanDuel money, Barstool, whatever it is. They're all going to be in bed together. So in the NFL, my time covering that sport, if there was a controversial call, they would designate somebody before the game, a pool reporter among the media, and if they had a question about a call that was made, that head official would have to talk to the media. Right. So again, with all the money in gambling and point spreads, and if you're going to fix a game, who's better to have than any one player? The referee.
Right.
Should college football mandate something like that? Because these officials have nobody to answer to for some of these calls.
And you do have gambling now in the NCAA.
Like I said, it's coming. They're going to be, hand in hand in bed with one another.
I would be all for that, and they don't have to. And you know who else doesn't have to? Greg Sankey, although he's coming in here tomorrow at the Little Rock Touchdown Club, and he's going to get asked about that for sure. That's an interesting point, but it is what it is to me. It happened. What are you going to do about it? You still lost. You lost the game technically on a missed tackle on a fourth and it was a 4th and 2 or 3. The game's over if Arkansas makes that tackle, and it was another missed tackle.
Whenever you think of penalties in football, bad calls, they always exist. But whenever a team gets that many penalties, discipline, effort, what ties into something like that?
I don't know. I think there's a lot of different things. The next question, we'll try to get into that, but you'd almost have to be in the head of each player to understand what was going on out there.
It was a tough one to take, and there was, obviously I love Arkansas. Want Arkansas to win. Being as unbiased as possible, it did feel like there was a bit of an agenda. Just some of those things were a little bit untimely, but you know those are the breaks. Sometimes the calls go your way, and sometimes they just don't. Next question here, as you were alluding to, Fat Hog wants to know: so were the second half issues officiating or discipline? Does Petrino getting one of those penalties take him out of the head coach search? I don't think that penalty had anything to do with what Arkansas is going to do for their future head coach.
Yeah, I sort of asked that of people that claim they know what the committee is thinking, and they could be wrong because I've said this before. You don't know for sure. But what I was told was, well, it didn't help. But I don't know that would be the final decision. But I think a feeling on the part of people kind of above the head coach, the AD, the chancellor, the board would be, yeah, get mad, but don't do anything to get yourself in a position where your team is penalized for what you did. But other fans have defended him for why he got that penalty. Why were there so many? And again, I think we were told last week, they were having their best week of practice. They were aggressive. And I thought in the first half you saw evidence of that. This team, which had been, their main problem had been stopping the run, they stopped the run in this game. Mm-hmm. They were nose to nose. They were making tackles. It was looking really good. Second half, it looked like they slacked off a little bit, and I think maybe they were trying to overreact a little bit, got a little too emotional. When you sack somebody, turn around, throw them down too. Yep. And that's a mistake when you do that. When you're driving somebody out of bounds or you run them out of bounds, you get 2 steps out of bounds, don't reach over and shove a guy because you're going to get penalized for that every time. You're going to ruin the tackle. You kept the guy from gaining any yards, and now you're going to get him a first down just by shoving him like that. So I think they just got a little too emotional for that. And you got to be under control. You do. You got to play with force and anger and whatever you got, but you got to be under. I had a hard time explaining this to my wife one time, and this was years ago because you're not a sports fan. But I told her, I said, football is a game where you can't be stupid. And she said, but a lot of people believe football players are stupid. And I said, if you're stupid, you're going to get beat because you got to be smart when you do stuff. I don't care how good an athlete you are. If you do something dumb out there and it causes the key penalty that causes you to lose the game, that's stupid. So you got to be smart. And I just think they didn't make smart decisions.
So Bobby Petrino saying after the game, look, there's nothing I could say. I don't want to get fined. You know, this is kind of how they handcuff you. But look, we can say it. We can trash the officials all we want. So to you, Mike, what was the hardest call whenever it came to Arkansas having a chance to win this game? Some of them would stand out to me. They had a first down wiped out on Fernando Carmona hold. There was a late hit on Taylon Green that appeared to not get called. And there was also the play on Quincy Rhodes, which was legitimate, but he threw the dude to the ground.
Well, again.
And a late hit on him as well.
When Taylon Green, I think it was Arkansas's next to the last possession, their last possession where they only had 40 seconds left or whatever. But when they had a chance with a lead to burn clock time, and he gets this first down, and he's sliding down.
Giving himself up.
And so when you slide down, you can't hit somebody going down like that. And they did, and there was no call. Now, there was a holding call, too, but those should have been
offsetting
penalties, so you don't suddenly end up backed up closer to the goal line. So I thought that was a really damaging penalty, and it was wrong. It was a wrong call.
All right, next question here coming from Sherlock Hogg, who says, seems the refs had a problem with Coach P and the smoke he was bringing. It is obvious things changed with officiating after that. I have heard of sideline warnings, but never the coach being called for an unsportsmanlike penalty. I can't tell you this. Coaches getting called from penalties are very rare. He absolutely was given a warning. Unless you put your hands on an official or say something so unbelievably incriminating, they always give you a warning to back off.
That's right. Now, his daughter went on social media and basically said the ref should have walked away, and then it would have been okay. Well, it's not on him. We don't know what – it sounded like to me, or it looked like to me, that Petrino probably said something because they're talking, and then the guy's kind of looking, and then all of a sudden he stomps his foot, and he's even more mad, and that's when he got the flag.
And it started on the field, on the numbers at about the 20, and worked all the way back mid. I mean, he was unrelenting.
That went on there. Now, what he was reacting to, again, Arkansas had gotten a penalty with the Quincy Rhodes roughing the passer when he had the guy in the grasp as he released the ball, and that shouldn't have been a roughing the passer penalty, so he's mad about that. Then Taylon Green gets hit handing the ball off on a 2-point conversion, And you and I have talked about that probably was not a penalty. Well, it wasn't called, but I can see where Petrino would be mad about that. So that seemed to set him off. Look, if you looked at him in the press conference, he almost was in tears.
And did you see him doing this?
Yeah.
You know, like he was just he wanted so badly to say something.
Here's where it kind of got to me a little bit. He talked about how hard they'd worked. And you got to know, if you're in his position, you've got to try to keep this team playing hard. Yeah. And so he was basically saying, look, in spite of everything we've been through, they were on focus this week. They did everything they had to do. They played a great game, not a great game, but a good game, played well enough to win, and they did. And then this happens, and it takes us away from us. So it's just hard to take, and it is. Yeah. But again, we're back to square one. Yes, but so what? You still should have won. If you want people to have faith in you, you got to figure out a way to win.
And he had a great comment after the game. You know, it really seemed to humanize him to me. It was just very clear emotion. He just said, you know, our guys are bought in. They're working their tails off. They're doing everything we asked them to do, and he really wants them to feel a win because he feels they deserve to win.
I still think they want that, even just one win, just to feel like what would it feel like to win an SEC game.
And that was a cool setting too. Mississippi State had lost 16 straight. You know, you see their sideline; they're not quitting. Their players overjoyed whenever they finally get in the end zone. And Arkansas as well, when they had chances to win. Their sideline engaged, the effort, the emotions, all of it there.
And look what happened to Auburn when they won the week before, and then they go out and lay an egg.
Yeah, they get their coach fired,
Yeah, they almost didn't score in that game, so it's just crazy.
All right, still a whole lot more to get to. Arkansas fallout from the loss against Mississippi State. Got to take a quick time out here on Ask Mike. Back for more here on Ask Mike and diving right back into it. Arkansas trying to overcome a tough loss to Mississippi State. Got the bye week, and it's on the road to take on LSU. Up next, our question coming from Razor Alex 88, who says, you would think the football field is a dandelion field with all the penalties. This game drained so much rage and fury out of me. Not a single ounce of fury left to give. I just can't with this team anymore. You know, if that's true, that's a bummer. Because it's one thing to be mad. It's another thing to stop caring.
At least for this season. And that's my whole point. That's what I've been seeing. I've even talked to some people that said, look, I could feel empathy for them maybe normally in this situation, but not now. I'm done. I think everybody's ready to switch over to basketball, which is Monday night.
Yeah, Monday night, bring it on.
We tape this, so we don't have on this version of Ask Mike, we won't have the results of that game. We won't be able to talk about it, but I think you're going to see a big crowd there. Last year, you didn't see big crowds in these early. I think now people want to go over there and feel good about something that involves the Razorbacks instead of this, because this is the tough reality. They now know that their football team is dead last in the SEC. They're not tied for somebody at the bottom. They are 16th.
Only winless team.
They are 16th, and that's not easy to take.
Also, the losingest team in the conference, tied with Vanderbilt right now, but Vanderbilt's probably going to get another conference win. Losingest team in the SEC dating back to when Petrino was fired. So since 2012 now, so what is that, 13 or 14 seasons? Yeah. They're tied for the fewest wins in the conference, and at the end of this year, very likely, they will be last. Putting you on the spot here, you know, we're talking about officiating. And again, a lot of this was warranted. Some of it was just hogwash, of course. What's the worst call that's gone against the Razorbacks in your time doing this, the last 50 years?
It was the Auburn game in the COVID year, in which you had Auburn quarterback. They're trying to run out the clock, but they want to kick a field goal. And if they can kick this field goal, they can put it away because they're trailing, I don't know, by 1 point or something. Guy tries to spike the ball, and he goes backwards with it, which is technically a fumble. The ref screwed it up. Admitted later they made the wrong call, but they overruled it and just let them go ahead and kick the field goal. And I thought Sam Pittman was going to come unglued that night. But that was the worst I've seen, and that was pitiful.
Yeah, that's a good one to point out. I even remember watching, COVID, we all had a lot of extra time on our hands watching that one from afar. That was a bummer. And credit to Pittman, who, now obviously has moved on, but awesome that he got the team, kind of turned around that fast. Chad Morris was a total debacle. They were really competitive. They had a lot of effort there in 2020. Next question here coming from In Hog We Trust, who asks, are refs assigned to games based on their own evaluation and ranking of teams?
I think what he's asking, this is the way I read that question, Does the SEC take, and they do evaluate their own referees, they do it every game. So do they take the guys with the best evaluation and send them to the big games and send all the guys that aren't evaluated very
To the
high?
game nobody wants to
Yeah,
do.
to the bottom
Just
feeder
like TV
games.
crews, pretty much.
I don't know if they do that or not. I would doubt it, but if they do, would they admit it? Of course not. And how would you know unless somebody leaked it? And I haven't heard of anybody claiming that. So I'm going to say no, they don't do that. But if they do, you're probably not ever going to know. It wouldn't be right, I think, if you did it that way, though.
Yeah, look, refs are human too. Don't think that they don't respond to home crowds. You know, whenever there is all that booing, of course, they have reactions. Don't think that they have agendas out for coaches. Whenever they're chewing them out, they won't leave them alone. You know, if it's a close play and the guy's nice to you, you know, maybe you keep the flag in your pocket. If he's not, if he's chewing you out, if he picks you up at the 20 and follows you all the way to the 50 and doesn't leave you alone, maybe you're a little bit more inclined to throw the penalty flag the next time. Next question here coming from UR wants to know, does Petrino still have a chance to be named head coach? Does he have booster support for himself and name, image, and likeness?
2 weeks ago, I was told that among the people that are making the decision, well, he was talking about the board, which there are 10 members on the board. He said Petrino had 4 people solidly in his corner, 2 weren't. So it was up to the other 4. But they felt like if things continued to at least go decently, he would have a good shot. I think that's obviously changed. So what chance does he have now? In my opinion, the one chance he's got, if the 3 games that are left are against the so-called rivalry teams, the rivalry teams that the SEC has identified, because next year, when you start playing this schedule where you go back and forth, you're going to have to play a permanent opponent every year, and that's going to be these 3 teams, Missouri, or LSU, Texas, and Missouri, in that order this year. Those will be your rivalry teams. So I think if they even beat 2 of them, if they beat Texas and Missouri and finish the season at the end, he might have a shot. Beats all 3, I think he's got a decent shot. So there's still something on the table there.
Yeah, you know, you can be reactionary too. So it's like, say he would have started 2-1 and then finished 0-4. That's get out of here. You start 0-4, you finish 2-1. It's like,
how you finish always matters.
What people remember of you last always as a major impact. In fact, that's why Petrino has so much support here, because he wasn't fired for football reasons. The last time they saw this guy as head coach, they were winning 11 games.
Yeah.
All right, next question here coming from Eddie Lynn, who wants to know, I'm not one of those play the backup QB guys, but there is no reason now not to take a look at KJ Jackson. He's the future. They need to see what he can do. It will not help him next season.
See, again, if you're Petrino, what do? If you're sitting there thinking what I just said, if he's thinking, man, if I can win 2 of these games, maybe all 3, I still get this job. You're going to play your backup quarterback? I say no. Now, that problem for him may get solved anyway, because Taylor Green got hurt on the last play of the game, and they haven't told us anything since then. Yeah. It's an off week.
And there's no media availability this week. Well, Wednesday, Bobby will have to talk.
So we don't know right now how badly he's hurt. He said it was bad. So is he going to be available after a week off and an extra week to prepare? I don't know. If he's not, then obviously KJ will play. But I'm guessing that if Green is healthy, he's still going to start. And then maybe if the game gets out of hand a little bit, or you can't win it, maybe he puts KJ Jackson in.
How about this? It's hard to predict, but we got a show to do today. So let's hit this topic today. More likely to be the quarterback next year, KJ Jackson or a transfer?
I like him, but you're asking me to figure out if it's not Petrino, if he's not the coach, what is a new coach going to say? Well, I don't have a clue. But I would say he's got a better than 50% chance of being the quarterback. If he stays here, he might leave. You can do that.
Yeah, if there's a change in philosophy, that certainly could happen. Now, if you're starting to play the backup quarterback, other players you're getting looks, buy-in could really be an issue. Other guys start looking around like, hey, what are we doing here? Is this really in the best interest of us trying to win games? I'm trying to get tape for the NFL, tape for that next job. Do you feel that really could be an issue from here on out?
It might be, but it might help KJ decide not to leave. I don't know if he felt like he got a shot. Now, look, that guy's been a great teammate. I'm telling you, when Taylor Green does anything, he's one of the first guys there to congratulate him. So it's not like he has a bad attitude. And he's been very patient. And I'm telling you, ever since his true freshman year, I've been impressed with him. He's a different kind of quarterback. He's much more accurate on the short passes than Green is. And that's where Arkansas has had a problem anyway. and he's not fast like Green is, but he's quick. He can go left.
Pocket mobility.
Yeah, and he can go left, right, find a little seam, move in and out. He might get you 9 yards where Green might get you 12 or 15, but he can still get you a first down. And I think he would be more likely to move up in the pocket, which is a huge issue with Taylor Green.
All right, next question here coming from Marty Bird's Proxy, who wants to know, if you're doing this coaching hire, what quality is more important to you? A fundraiser who energizes donors, a recruiter who can relate to players both high school and in the portal, or a good old fundamental coach who is thorough and detail-oriented?
Well, I think all of those things are important. I don't know that
Pretty much defines a college football coach.
Yeah, he defined it. However, there's one other thing that I would look for if I were making this hire. If I'm the AD and I'm making this hire, I'm looking into the background of the guys you're looking at, and I'm looking for something that separates them. Now, there's one guy, I'm just going to tell you, I'm not saying they got to hire him because it's not up to me to tell them who to hire. But a guy that I would look at in that respect is Eric Morris at North Texas, or the University of North Texas. I keep wanting to call it North Texas State.
Where did you go to school?
North Texas State.
What was it called then?
North Texas State.
What's it called now?
University of North Texas.
My guy, roommates with Mean Joe Green. Who knows? I'm just dreaming. I'm dreaming.
No, it wasn't roommates, but he was in the dorm and used to beat guys up, but that's another story. Look, here's what I know from my buddies out in Lubbock. Back when Cliff Kingsbury was the head coach at Texas Tech, Morris was an assistant coach there. Patrick Mahomes was a basketball player.
Baseball.
I'm sorry, yeah, a baseball player.
His dad was in the majors. Yeah.
That's right. And he said, hey, you're a football player. And he started developing him. We went out there to cover that game with Brett Bielema, and Arkansas beat him with some other guy at quarterback that I've forgotten. He wasn't any good, I know that. The next year, Mahomes, Morris had talked Kingsbury into playing Mahomes, and Mahomes comes in here, and they never punted. We never stopped him one time. And look where he is today. So he's developed that guy. Okay, anybody heard of Cam Ward? When Morris became the head coach at Incarnate Word, which is an FCF school, he was a no-star. He was like he had one other offer, and it was not a good offer. He takes him and turns him into the player of the year, 24 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, 2,200 yards. And then the next year he throws for 4,000 yards. Then he takes him to Washington State, where he has another good year. Then he goes to Miami, and he becomes the #1 player in the draft. He developed that guy. The quarterback he has now, I don't know how to pronounce this guy's name, Brew Mestamaker. He starts out as a walk-on when Morris gets there, 6th on the team. Somebody told me today he's going to win the Burlsworth Award.
Oh, wow.
He's a walk-on. Started out sixth on the quarterback depth. He's completing 69% of his passes through 9 games, 21 TDs, 4 picks, 300 yards a game passing. To me, and plus, Morris at North Texas, they have a good defense. And he may end up winning that league. They're all tied. There's a bunch of them. But he can end up winning that league where all these other candidates are the head coach. You know, South Florida.
Silverfield.
Memphis.
John Summerall.
Tulane. So what if he wins that league and so he's outdone all of those guys? Would that be a consideration? But you know what I was told? The board is sitting there, the people that are making the committee, they're sitting there going, well, yeah, but his name is Morris. Well, how will that play with the fans? Do you think that's silly or not?
So you mean to tell me that the board of trustees, some millionaires, dignitaries, incredibly smart, incredibly powerful people, they're sitting there and saying, hey, this guy might be the best job, and somebody's raising their hand and speaking up and saying, yeah, but man, our fan base has got this last name Morris.
That's my reaction. Are you kidding me? They're not.
If that's even remotely true,
yes.
If we're paying those people to make those kind of decisions,
the person that told me
no
that,
sense.
I said, that's crazy. They're not. And he said, well, hey, go around and start asking fans. They react that way. I said, they won't react that way if you hire him and he starts winning. I mean, you can't do that. And I hope they don't do it. Look, there are other names out there. James Franklin's not out of this. Remember a week ago when we sat here and talked about he was on the verge of signing with Virginia Tech had a deal?
Speculation. There were some reports.
Yeah, and we're a week later and still don't have one.
Yeah. Well, and everybody's been talking to James. Well, his representatives, because he's fired. He's available.
That's right.
One guy I don't think people were talking. Brian Kelly.
No.
I don't know if he's going to be getting a whole lot of interest.
No. And then there's a name I can't reveal because I was told not to, but he is a guy that would be out of the blue. You wouldn't believe who this guy is. He's in the NFL, and it's not Gruden. But if they could get him, that would be a big hire. It's going to cost them a lot of money, and they don't know if they have the money. Now, I was told by somebody I trust eminently that was there at the time, he said, Juracek was over at the foundation last week with some boosters trying to convince them to give $30 million for this hire. And he said, if he gets that $30 million, he's keeping the AD job. You know, that's the way you keep your job.
It's an athletic director's job to raise money.
Yes.
That's number one.
And if he can raise $30 million and get this hire done, he's got the job. That's what I was told.
All right, a lot of speculation, a lot of rumors, a lot of information out there as far as who the next head coach will be. Got to take the time out. More Ask Mike right after the break. Time to dive right back into it on Ask Mike with Mike Irwin. Our next question here coming from my three boneheads who ask, should Arkansas be moving with more urgency since there are so many openings and more opportunities may open up in a few days? The latest, of course, Auburn, Hugh Freeze is out.
I don't know how you move with more urgency because if somebody's not willing to commit, you could have somebody in mind, okay, here's an offer. If they're looking at somebody else, you can have all the urgency you want.
They're really only retired or fired coaches you could be talking to right now.
So we're only talking about Franklin, basically. And again, the word I got last week was he's gotten a huge offer from Virginia Tech. And if you want to get him, you're going to have to match that or come close to it. So I don't know that there's anything you can do to have more urgency. I suppose it's possible to go make a deal with somebody and keep it quiet, but it's awfully hard to do that. Somebody already has a job, they're already coaching at another school, and you're going to come and make a deal with them in total secret, maybe through their agent, and then keep it quiet. Do you know how hard that is these days? Somebody talks, and it gets out, and then all of a sudden you got a problem. So I don't know that you move. I'm not sure that a coach is going to commit to this job before the season is over, no matter who it is.
Give me a reason why fans should care about them spending too much money. So why would there be a reason for them to be like, whoa, why are you paying this guy $10, $11 million?
No, I think Arkansas fans would like that because their view is we haven't been spending enough.
And look at the results.
Yeah, so let's spend a lot of money if we've got it. It's not my money. I just want you
Not my money either.
I want you to spend it, and then we'll get better. I think that would be good news if they could come out and say, we pay this guy $12 million. We gave him $30 to $40 million in NIL money. We're committed. We're going to do. If you come out and say that the day he's hired, or if that information is leaked out or whatever, they're going to have a totally different attitude about this football program than they do right now.
100%. It's not, and I agree with you there. It's not my money. Go try something different because you know what they did with Sam Pittman, having some of the smallest allocation for resources towards NIL, some of the smallest allocation for a head coach and a coaching staff. It got you pretty much last place results and a coach who was under 500 over 5.5 years. Next question here comes from Mousetown. It says, you media guys are all over the map with what's going on with the job or the search. Some say Hunter Juracek is making the hire, or it's a committee with Juracek, or a new AD has already been picked and he's involved, not HY. Come on.
Welcome to coach searches, because there's no way to make this anything other than it is. Everyone I've ever been involved is like walking around through the woods looking for a little path, and you think you've got a path, and all of a sudden you run into a tree, and you got to back up and go over here, because people tell you things. Sometimes when they tell it to you, it's true, but then it changes. Sometimes they don't know what they're talking about. They've listened to somebody else. You don't know, if you're told something, you don't know how many times that's been filtered through somebody. If it comes directly from somebody on the board, that's one thing. But what if it comes from somebody who talked to a guy on the board, who then talked to a guy and another guy, and then this guy's telling you, look, I know what's happening. And you don't know what, I mean, it's just.
Everybody thinks they know.
It is our job to do that. And I understand that. But that doesn't make it easy. And I'm not going to worry about whether or not somebody's upset because we're giving conflicting information, because that's the way it works.
I am not convinced that Hunter Juracek will make the hire per se. And look, this is not uncommon at all. Athletic directors all across the country are told by very powerful, very influential people
right.
that, no, I know you may disagree, but this is who we're hiring and you kind of have to deal with it. And if they want those checks to keep on clearing, they have to do that. Are you surprised that it does appear that he's going to remain as the athletic director?
If he does, yes. Unless the scenario that I mentioned earlier, unless we find out he came up with a huge sum of money and that enabled them to hire the guy they want, then he's back in good graces because that's what he's supposed to do, and that supposedly is what he's not been doing up till now. So it depends on the circumstances.
Yeah, and I'm just following the evidence that's out there. For him to go on the record at the Little Rock Touchdown Club and then basically double down on it when he fired Sam Pittman and say, we did not have the resources to support a winning football program in the SEC. To me, either you're just not using your head whenever you say something like that, or you know you have the support to say something like that. So I don't think he would have thrown something like that out there unless he really felt comfortable.
You may be right.
In what he was doing. Next question here comes from Just Win, who says, Sam Pittman fired a month ago. Meanwhile, the man who hired him and refused to fire him until football crashed and burned remains untouched. Is Yurachek his own boss and cannot be fired? Pretty much exactly what we were just talking about here.
Yurachek does have a boss. His name is Chancellor Charles Robinson. And then here's the thing. ADs at Arkansas are hired usually on recommendation of the chancellor, but it has to be approved by the board. And that's also the process by which you get fired. So if he's held accountable, it will generally be from the chancellor, who will then talk to the board and say, I don't like this guy, I don't have any faith in him anymore, here's what I don't like about him, let's vote. And if they vote he's out, he's out. So the AD does have a boss. He can't just do whatever he wants.
Yeah, crazy. Crazy to think that we've kind of gotten into the situation where you could still potentially be changing a football coach, turning over that program, and even turning over an athletic director. But I'll wait and see at this point in time. Next question here coming from Stu, who says, I saw a stat that said Arkansas had played more than double the number of top 25 teams in Drinkwitz and Missouri. Does Sankey in the SEC office have a vendetta against Arkansas? I long for a commissioner like CM Newton. All right, quickly here to make a point on this scheduling thing. Missouri played in the East. The East has been down for a long, long time. Now there's no divisions, but that has a lot to do with that.
I went and looked it up. I actually did some legwork here. So he says double. No, it's not double. Since 2000, when Drinkwitz was hired, Arkansas has played 33 ranked teams, Missouri 23, so that's 10 more, not 23 more, which would be the double the numbers. You make a very good point. 4 of those 6 years, Missouri's been in the SEC East. The East just doesn't have as many ranked teams in there. So it doesn't have anything to do with somebody doing something to Arkansas to make the schedule imbalanced. You just paid a price because you were in the West. Now, the last 2 years, that hasn't been the case. And they've got this new, with 16 teams, this new formula is you play a schedule and you play home and home. So you play this team at your place 1 year, the next year you play them on the road, and then after that, it all flips. So in those 2 years, it's 13-9. Arkansas has played 13 ranked teams, Missouri 9. So theoretically, although there's no way to make it be totally this way, when they flip, it ought to go the other direction based on just who is on there and who's not. And then this doesn't involve ranked teams, but it's still one of the reasons that Drinkwitz has been successful, I'm telling you this, is because he's got a smart AD. And from the very beginning, what they didn't do was they didn't play road games that were non-conference games. They played them at home. It's easier to win, but there's a price to pay when you buy one of these. You bring them in. You don't have to go to their place. And that's why they call it rent-a-win. You bring them, you pay them money.
Games, yes.
You give them money to come in and get beat, and that's almost always what happens. Yurachek hasn't done that. He's done things like schedule Memphis. Now, he got a good deal, some people say, but it's 2 for 1.
Tulsa.
But you still have to go over there and get beat, and you got beat.
Yeah.
Theoretically, what that does is you don't have to pay that big guarantee. So you do what? You save that more for your revenue sharing. And that's clearly what he was doing. So are you going to criticize him for trying to save money to make the revenue sharing cap, or are you going to say he was stupid for scheduling a team like Memphis on the road? You could go either way with that, but I understand why he did what he did.
Don't you think it's better for the fan base, though, if you're going to put yourself out there and you're going to put, Arkansas is going to Utah. I think that's pretty cool. They went to BYU. That's a fun game. Oklahoma State, that's a place where fans can get to. There is some equity to be bought with your fan base. You go to those cool places, you win some games.
And starting next year, you're going to have to do that. But you're going to have to play one game against a Power 4 team anyway. So If it's BYU next year, and I guess that's who it is, that's
Utah.
who it is.
I'm sorry. Arkansas
Sorry,
is home
Utah.
and home with Utah.
I'm
coming up.
sorry, I get those two mixed up.
We all do. Hey, shout out Utah, though. Beautiful place. Next question here coming from WV Hog fan who wants to know, should I blame Coach Broyles, Holtz, Hatfield, Nutt, and Petrino of old for spoiling me with perennial teams in the top 20 to make me feel so bad about us now being a laughingstock and cellar dwellers in the SEC? Mike, we're talking about this over the weekend. When they fired Houston Nutt, and they basically fired him. I know how it all worked out. I know the history. The messaging there was, we've grown tired of this. We're better than an 8-4 football program. When Brett Bielema was out of here, no. We're better than being a 6-6 football program. What are they now?
Well, you should not blame the Coach Broyles, Holtz, Hatfield, Nutt. You should be thankful for that because those memories are good memories. But the main thing those memories do is it shows me that there's not anything about Arkansas that makes you automatically a bottom feeder in the SEC. It's what's happened. It's the ADs you've hired. It's the coaches those ADs have hired. It's all that stuff. So the bottom line is this: if you want to get back to where they used to be, and I don't care how far back you want to go, but if you want to get back there, hire the right AD, who then hires the right coach, who then does the right things. Will it happen again? Yes. I don't know if I'll be around. I don't know how long it's going to take. But there's nothing about Arkansas that says you're doomed. You have to be this way. You just have to stop hiring the wrong people.
Save for 1 or 2 years under Dan Mullen, Florida really hasn't been back since Urban Meyer was gone. Tennessee with Derek Dooley and Jeremy Pruitt and Greg Schiano, who didn't even get the job. He was fired after Butch Jones, and they were down for 15
They may
years.
do it again.
These are proud programs that have been down for a long time. It is hard to find the right kind of coach.
And it's going to get worse because with this 16-team schedule, and you're having to now play a 9-game SEC.
10 power games a year.
Yeah, you can be good and lose. That's just it.
I love it. I want good football. I don't Arkansas playing Arkansas State, playing ULM, playing Alabama A&M. I don't want that. I want to see good games. I'm happy to see it. All right, not out of time just yet. We got to take a break. We're back to wrap things up. Back here with Mike Irwin to wrap things up on this edition of Ask Mike. Our next question here coming from PG Hog 1, who asks, will the athletic department ever improve the pregame atmosphere in football and basketball? We are lagging behind in that we are in football, just as we are in football NIL. This is true. The game experience there needs to be better.
This has been going on for several years, complaints. Where it's really interesting, and I was reading, because there was a fight that developed on the internet over this, a Mississippi State fan was taking some shots at Arkansas, and specifically the atmosphere. And Razorback fans were fighting back and saying, your atmosphere is worse than ours. You know, who do you think you are?
You cowbell people.
Yeah, you bozos. But the bottom line is, here's how you solve that problem. And you said it, there is an issue. It's too dead.
It is.
You got to come up with something.
It's antiquated, it is.
So you take your people, you got all these people over in the athletic department, I would take them and send them to other games, send them to other places. Take notes. What did you like? What didn't you like? Okay, so you can do that. You can also go to your cheerleaders and ask them, what can you do? What do we need to do to let you do to make this better? They used to take Tusk in a cage and bring him all around before now they don't bring it in there for some reason. I can't remember what they say. Oh, it's impractical to get him in there now. What? They used to do it. They can't do it now. So something like that. Talk to the band. Is there anything the band needs to do? Should we let you do things you're not doing? Then I think the final piece of this is, and you do everything online these days, but just have an app or something where when you're a season ticket holder and you come in, you can just sit and type out on your phone, I don't like this. I think you need to do that. And get input from your fans. This is how you change things. You're going to get a bunch of different ideas. You can't have all of them, but you got to have enough instinct to say, I like this idea. I don't like this. But then you may try something that doesn't work. I don't know. I always liked Woo Pig Suey. I think it's good. Should they do more Woo Pig Suey? I don't know. Maybe.
So somewhat unrelated, but it is a way to raise money. Ty Richardson, a good friend of the program here, he's
Right.
on with us quite a bit. I don't know if you saw this. He said that Morgan Wallen reached out to the university. He wanted to do a concert in Razorback Stadium,
Right.
and apparently this happened more than once. Maybe Morgan Wallen, not exactly in your lane, but hey, the guy's everywhere. He's extremely popular. You could sell a lot of tickets. You could make a lot of money. Why on earth, if true, would they turn down that opportunity?
I don't know, but that's another black mark on the AD.
You're going to make money on a
Exactly.
concert, right? And whatever, if it's the infrastructure, if whatever you need help from, if it's state troopers, the campus, whatever, figure it out.
Exactly. I mean, it's just another way. The dissolution of these Razorback clubs all over the state. It used to be a huge way they made money because they'd have a bunch of these. Now, the coaches would have to go, and it was done in the off season, and it required more of them. The word I got was your check felt like it was when the coaches get in the off season, they need more downtime. I'm sorry, no. They have to help raise money.
It's a year-round job, yeah.
And to me, if I'm your check, I go with Bobby Petrino if he's the coach. I go with Sam Pittman. You go with them to these clubs, and you get people fired up. Houston Nutt could do that. It was like selling popsicles to Eskimos. They were going crazy,
You got planes, you got boosters with tour buses. There is no excuse why they can't get to wherever they need to go, however many times they need to be here. Next question from Hog Dogger, who says, paid agents like Jimmy Sexton make it harder to recruit coaches. Too bad there aren't guardrails for these agents. The price to pay for play is getting out of hand.
You're not going to get any guardrails. This is the capitalistic system. This is the way it works. It's capitalism. I mean, you
We're
can't
going to the highest bidder.
You can't have rules on that.
And these coaches are mercenaries.
Yes. So there's been some suggestion, and I don't believe this will happen, but there's been some suggestion that what's going to happen is you're going to see schools like LSU that have a lot of these buyouts to pay off. What they're going to do is they're going to offer whoever they want more money to begin with. Instead of $9 million, you offer them $13 million. But then they only get a 3-year contract, not a 6 or 5 or 6 year contract, and you get a smaller buyout at the end. That way you allow yourself to fire somebody after 3 years. You don't have to sit around like Arkansas did with Sam Pittman and wait forever. That all sounds good, but you're dealing with an agent. You want a coach. You're calling Jimmy Sexton. You're saying, well, come on, man. We're going to give him more money off the bat. And he said, I want both. I want more money.
And if you don't give it to me, somebody else
will. And so I don't think that's going to happen. It's always supply and demand. What is the demand for this guy? If there's no demand, then you don't have to pay him. But if there is demand, you're going to have to pay him. And I don't see that changing. So there's not going to be guardrails.
And I feel like we're in a world where Lane Kiffin is going to be, especially if they don't get into the playoff, and he's available right away, he's going to be the belle of the ball, whether it's Ole Miss, Auburn, Florida, LSU, Penn State. Somebody's probably going to pay him $15 million.
I still say he's staying where he is.
And you know what? He should. If they're in the playoff, I think he does. You mean to tell me that LSU is going to wait until Christmas to hire Lane Kiffin? Because he's not going to leave a playoff team.
And there's also a speculation about Drinkwitz. A lot of people say, oh, he'll go to Penn State. He won't go to Penn State. I think he wants to stay in the SEC. And if LSU offered him a job, which I don't know if they will, why would you want to go to Baton Rouge when Columbia is a much better place to live? They can give
because there's more money and it's easier to get players.
Okay,
That's
more
why.
money, but he's done a good job of getting players where he is. And let's say you're getting $2 million less or $3 million. If you got enough, you got enough.
Yeah, when's enough, right?
Well, I know. He's done pretty good.
Pigs get fat, hogs get slaughtered. We all chase the money. Final question of the week coming from Hoggy Style, who asked, will these basketball Hogs win the SEC this year, regular and tournament titles? This team is impressive. Those games against Memphis, against Cincinnati, they were balling.
There's no way for me to answer that, but I will say what I've always said about this. Basketball is different. It's not about winning the conference. It's not about winning a conference tournament. It's about getting into the NCAAs and winning them.
And getting hot at the right time.
They want you to go to the Sweet 16, maybe the Elite 8. The Final Four, wow, that's it. A national championship, that's everything. Historically, what's happened to Arkansas, and they've won the SEC tournament once, as nearly as I can tell. Won the league a few times. But historically, what has happened, even with good teams, is, and this is not just Arkansas, you win the SEC tournament right before you go into the NCAAs, there's a letdown almost. And now all of a sudden you get ambushed. So, yeah, here's what winning the SEC tournament does. If you were finished second or first, third in your league and you win the tournament, that'll get you a 2 seed at the least, maybe a 1 seed.
For sure, yeah.
So,
a league this good.
So it helps you. But it doesn't help you if you're one of those 1 seeds that's gone at the end of the. You don't usually get knocked off in the first game, but maybe the second. Well, all kinds of 1 seeds losing around to 32. So all I'm saying is This team's goal should be to get to the Elite Eight because that's one step further than they got last year.
I'm super excited to see this team. They got it all. They got the coach. They've got experience. They've got talent. They've got depth. This team should go very far. They should be living in the top 10 this year. All right. He's Mike Irwin. I'm Trey Dare. That's going to do it for this week's Ask Mike.